Welcome back, everybody, to the Cinema Condition. It is me, your host, Raul Alejandro Mendoza, and today we are back for our Season 2 premiere. Yes, it's back. The Cinema Condition is back, and as always, I am going to be doing a movie with another guest, and today, as I gave the beautiful little, teaser at the end of last season, I said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a teaser of what's coming in on season 2. And I said, we'll be back next year when we discuss Celine Sciamma's Portrait of a Lady on Fire with Alex Almeida. And that is who is joining me. Of course, the first person who was on the Cinema Condition is back, and she's joining me for our premiere of season 2. And before we say, how we've been doing and everything, but I want to go ahead and introduce you all once again to Alex. Alex, you're back.
Hey, I'm back.
You're back.
I'm back with one of the best movies.
Yep. I'm glad you're back, dude, because it's been a while. Honestly, it's been a while.
Oh yeah.
But if you found yourself on this podcast, I would like to reintroduce you all to myself and the podcast itself. My name is Raul Alejandro Mendoza. I'm a filmmaker, podcast host, a photographer, and ex-radio host. I've created the Nerdcore Podcast Network, and I created this podcast you are listening to at the moment. This podcast is a podcast devoted to film analysis and discussing film on a deeper scale. It's discussing its themes, its characteristics, and really what makes the movie that we are watching. And every episode, for as many episodes you'll get this season, I have a guest on to talk about the movie that they chose. Sometimes it's new guests, sometimes it's old guests. As if you're listening to this from season 1, we've introduced ourselves to some new guests, and also we've introduced some really interesting filmmakers. And today we're back with the first person who was on the first episode of Cinema Condition when we did Gaspar Noé's Climax, and that is Alex Almeida, of course. And Alex, how you been, dude?
I'm doing good. Just
doing good.
Locked inside. It's all good.
Locked inside.
Yeah.
This is currently being recorded in the year of 2020, aka the year of hellfire and in chaos, right?
One hell of a year.
A hell of a year, but we survived it because we're in the last couple of weeks of December. The season finale is upon us, right? We don't know what will happen in the season finale of 2020, but it's bound to be something crazy.
Something light.
Something light.
Just hopefully. A little light.
Just a little light.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but what's it called? I haven't actually podcasted with Alex in a while. I want to say last time that I podcasted with Alex, like not in the Cinema Condition, but like, in general, she was on for like 20 minutes and then she left because of her internet, but she was like, hey, it's all good. I'm going to be in the chat trying to watch. And that was like, what, 4 months ago?
Yeah.
It was a while ago. And yeah, I'm glad to be sitting down and, talking to Alex. And for those who are on the Patreon, you know that you are watching this live and in video form. And that is one of the best things you could do when you go to patreon.com/nerdcore. So you get the episodes of the Cinema Condition. So this is how it's going to work. The first 5 episodes are going to come to you very early. We're talking like weeks early because they're recording in advance. You guys know that I record the first 5 episodes in advance, and then I do after that on a weekly basis. So if you want to watch these episodes live and in video form, you got to be on the Patreon and patreon.com/nerdcore. And you guys get this at the $1 tier, and you get to watch us in our beautiful faces live. And then both of us are using DSLRs, so we look pretty crispy and beautiful.
Just for you guys.
Just for the patrons, right? Just for
I spent 2 hours setting this up just for you guys.
Just for you.
Mm-hmm.
Just for you guys, I spent. She actually lit her set. She's being lit from the front by her computer, and then she's got that backlighting. Yeah. Well, yeah. Alex went and looked for how to light her own set for y'all. So, y'all better appreciate that. But
I had a more colorful background, but Raul said
yeah,
it was too loud, so I turned it down
yeah.
a little bit.
People won't understand that our skin tones have
Yep.
a big thing to play within lighting.
Yep.
Like right now, I'm not lit at all. I'm not balanced at all. Like I'm looking pasty because I got two monitors just hitting me in my face.
You got that blue light all up on you.
Got that blue light all up on me, right? Yeah, but I'm really happy, man. Last season was a success. We've done a great job, and I looked at our numbers, and I want to thank you all so much for giving Cinema Condition Season 1 400 listens, dude. You guys are great. Thank you all so much for that. I know that most of those came from the love episode and, and from the handmaiden.
Well,
Yeah, but I mean, I give you all what apparently you guys want, and apparently 80,000 of you all on YouTube really wanted to watch Love, and you didn't know that I was talking about the film, not showing the film.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe for the wrong reasons they kind of jumped in there, but
Yeah. I appreciate you all though. Yeah, I appreciate you. I know that Alex and I appreciate you all because what's it called? We tried our damn hardest to discuss that movie and all that we did.
Oh man.
Yeah. But we're back again for another season. That means we're gonna have some new guests and we're gonna have some old guests. But I'm just really happy to be back and do this because, as I've said, this really isn't a review show. This is more of like an in-depth discussion that you can have with somebody, and it's really the discussions that I try to emulate that I have when I step out of a theater. And sadly, in 2020, that hasn't been the case because I have not been to the theater since March. But I'm glad that we can still have this type of podcast in this year and be able to do what we can to replicate the that feeling of walking out of a theater and with your friends just be like, oh man, this was crazy. Like, hey, what did you think about it like this? Did you think about it like that? Like, I'm really happy that we are able to be back for this, and also just really happy to be able to kick it off with such a great movie. So
had to do it.
Yeah. So Alex, before we go into the actual movie, before we actually start, introducing the filmmaker, for those of you who may not, for those of them who may not know you, since this is a new season and we might have new listeners, Alex, you want to introduce yourself and who you are?
Yeah, I'm Alex Almeida, and I do graphic design. Basically, call myself an emo graphic designer, and that's about it, really.
Yeah,
that's all I do is just create logos and sometimes memes, but that's not. We don't need to get into that. That's not even.
You're giving yourself too much. You're not giving yourself enough credit, man. You also have some great art pieces that you put up on your site. I mean, on your Teespring and stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
You just have great art pieces. Yeah. But also, I mean, she is the mastermind behind the whole network. I mean, everything you're seeing, like the logos you see on us, the whole overlays for our streams, they're all made by Alex. She's the one who takes her time to make all these things, and I can never give you enough props for how you made the Cinema Condition logo. Like, I love the Cinema Condition logo. It's great. Let's not go ahead and discuss the fact that it's the logo from my old radio show, but we can move past that. But I love our logo, and Alex is the face of the network. She really has, she's the mastermind of the network with the visual stuff, and she's made everything that you see. And she's also one of the most entertaining people that you could listen to when you talk about this stuff, because she really likes to get into this stuff a lot.
Oh God.
Yeah, we can go hours, right?
Yep. Don't show them the text messages. They're very long.
Very long. They're very long. But she's also a renowned cinephile, man. She loves movies and she loves discussing them, and she's a big fan. And that's really what this space is about, bringing in people who want to discuss movies on this bigger platform. But with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and get into our film and our filmmaker. Reminder, guys, and really these reminders are gonna be for this first episode, and then after this, we're really gonna not have to remind you all. But if you're listening to this episode, you're listening under the instance that you have watched the film and you have what's it called been spoiled everything you need to be spoiled. You know, if you're listening, you could be like Alex. Alex doesn't care about spoilers. She listens to the reviews and she's like, "Yeah, I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
whatever, spoil it." It's like I'm gonna watch it either way. So either way, how it goes, like I don't have to reiterate a spoiler warning. So I mean, if you need a season spoiler warning, this is your season spoiler warning. But we will be discussing these movies as if you've already watched the film and you've already heard everything or read about everything about this movie. So, well, not everything, but the whole idea of this film. So, with that being said, we have never discussed the filmmaker Celine Sciamma, but well, at least on this show, because we did do Water Lilies on the Nerdcore, and I hope one day you get to choose Water Lilies or somebody chooses Water Lilies, because I have a lot to talk about Water Lilies. Like, I need somebody to choose her Girlhood trilogy. Like, those 3 movies are something huge to discuss.
Yeah.
It's nuts that she's only made 4 feature films, and like she's this damn good of a director. Like,
yeah. You would think she'd have a huge catalog of films based off of just watching one of her films.
Yeah. You would expect for her to be on like her 5th or 6th, dude. Like, it's nuts. But I want to go ahead and introduce you all to the filmmaker known as Celine Sciamma. Celine Sciamma is a queer feminist filmmaker. She was born on November 12th, 1976, in Cergy-Pontoise, in France. She went to school at what's it called? She went to film school, of course, like a lot of filmmakers do, and she wrote her first script in film school called Water Lilies, and she presented it to the panel, which she ended up getting some inspiration from her mentor to end up filming that script. And I want to go ahead and tell you this, guys. She did 2 projects for school. And before she actually even made Water Lilies, she had not made a short film for another company. She literally did her 2 freaking, school projects for her school time and went in straight into Water Lilies to film it in 2006 and then release it in 2007. And for those of you who may know, Water Lilies was screened at the Certain Regard section of Cannes. So not only did she get to film her script that she made in film school, it was screened at Cannes Film Festival.
That's huge.
Biggest film festivals in the world. I mean, this is the films festival where Rashomon from Akira Kurosawa was screened at and won the Palme d'Or. So, they're not fucking around here, man. She's a multiple Caesar Award nominee, and she is in her rest of her body of work includes Tomboy and Girlhood, which all create the Girlhood trilogy that Celine Sciamma has discussed before. But she also serves as a co-president for the Society of Film Directors in France since 2015, and her political activism. Her political activism goes beyond just film. She has also, she advocates for women's rights and queer rights. She has also been famous for protesting the pay disparity in the film industry in France as she created the 50-50 movement to hopefully get equal 50-50 pay for men and women in the French industry by 2020. I don't think that ended up working because last I heard things aren't looking great over there for pay disparity. But also, if you were keeping an eye last year during the awards circuit, especially the Caesar Awards circuit, that she also staged a protest when Roman Polanski was given the Best Director award at the Caesar Awards, and both her, Noémie Merlan, and Adèle Haenel walked out. And the year before that, she also staged a protest with Agnès Varda when she was alive. So and if you guys know who Agnes Varda is, in, incredibly important feminist icon in film, especially French film. So, Celine Sciamma is a very driven director. A lot of her films are around, queer identity, but also gender fluidity. And a lot of her films kind of discuss the ideas of, women and girls growing up. But that's not the film that we are discussing today, because this is her fourth film. This is a period piece, and we are going to go ahead and introduce you all to 2019's Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, written and directed by Celine Sciamma and shot by Claire Marthon, is what's it called, a period piece centered around our protagonist. Hold on. What's it called? Heloise. Heloise, played by Adele Hanel, is is what's it called? Her mother has commissioned a portrait, and correct me if I'm wrong, for the husband, the soon to be husband of Heloise, from Noemi Merlan's character, who was not Marie, Madeline, right?
The name of the mother?
No. The name of Noemi Merlan's character.
Oh, Marianne.
Marianne. Marianne. And as she comes to this remote French island in basically the late 1800s, it's a very cold island, as you can tell from the color grading. And you what's it called? Things aren't what they seem. As Marianne starts to fall in love with Heloise, as the process of making her portrait comes to life, and we see where that path takes them. I had the so I want to know from you, before I talk about my experience when I first watched this film. When did you first watch this film, Alex?
When it first came out on Hulu.
Okay, so earlier this year.
Yeah. I did not get to see it in the theaters because I don't think there was a theater near me that was showing it.
There's a theater in LA that was showing Portrait of a Lady on Fire? You gotta be kidding me.
Like by me. I'm not in like LA. I'm outside. I'm more of the valley. So, and driving in to LA is just not the business. So it's like an hour with traffic.
Yeah. So I watched Portrait of a Lady on Fire in what is known as the relics of pre-COVID, a movie theater. I watched it at an independent movie theater, and I watched it with my good friend Patrick Grady, who was on the Cinema Condition last season, and I watched it with another friend. And I watched it this year. Didn't get to watch it last year because nobody was playing it here. Well, they played it at the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. But sadly, that day I was busy and I couldn't go because I was working on stuff for school. But I watched it, and easily on my first watch of the film, I knew that this was probably one of my favorite movies that would have been released that year, if I would have seen it that year. And I definitely was shocked. Well, not shocked. Was very, surprised that, the filmmaker that I was missing out on. I was like, wow, I have never seen anything from Sciamma before. And then, of course, Criterion Channel uploaded 3 films from Sciamma on their service that were Water Lilies, Tomboy, and Girlhood, which, we ended up discussing on our coming of age month for Water Lilies on the Nerdcore. I adored this film when I first watched it. And, I always talk, when I discuss this film, there are a lot of things that I'm sucker for in cinema. I love talkies. I love movies where it's just 2 people going around town or going through a city and just talking. And you're kind of telling me a story through what you're talking about. But I'm also a fan of forbidden love and those stories that are just gut-wrenching and hard to watch because, well, they can't be together. And everybody knows that I'm also a big fan of European cinema. So when you had a French movie based on forbidden love, and then it looks like this. I mean, it was made for me. But I know that my reaction to this film was not as strong as you. So what was that first watch like?
Well, I wasn't going to originally watch it because I have this thing where I'm so tired of seeing um, queer films be set in the freaking early 1900s or something
Yeah.
like that. Like I was just so over it. Because I feel like it just lacks, I don't know. It just lacks something that I can't relate to or something. So I was just going to write it off and be like, nah, it's okay. But then I realized that the director was a queer woman herself, and an actress who was playing one of the roles was as well. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll give it a shot. So I watched it, and it's one of my favorite films of all time. There was something, I don't know, it just, I don't know. It was
Yeah.
crazy because I think the first night I watched it, I didn't even like have a reaction to the movie. Like I didn't cry, even though the ending is freaking heartbreaking. I
Oh
didn't cry
yeah.
at all. But I was just like, I was like floored. Like I was in shock. I was like, okay, this French film that I wasn't going to give a shot because my bias of not giving a shit about the 1900s,
Yeah.
early 1900s. I go in and watch it and was just like, oh my God. She nailed it as far as writing the intimacy between two people without physically having to show the intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I love her as a director is because she clearly is obsessed with detail, and you can tell from this movie.
1000%.
Yeah.
The film won the Queer Palm at Cannes, and it won the best screenplay at Cannes. And I mean, first of all, both of those are completely deserved. But if you look at that screenplay, you're like, oh yeah, no, this 1000% deserved. I mean, this script is as fluid as it can be. It basically kind of flows really well. When I first watched this film, I was just like in love with it easily. I was like, to me, the first thing I notice, are the technical aspects, because of course I work behind the camera. I'm a director, I'm a writer. I pay attention a lot to what goes on with the camera. And I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the look of it, and I'm like, oh, I've never seen a queer film like this. Even these period pieces.
Right.
And then I also understood something else from you, which was the basic thing that always has to happen with these films. Queer films always end up in some sort of tragic ending.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes it feels like the tragic ending isn't deserved. Unlike in this film where it's like, the tragic ending, it 1000% is like, this is just how life was back then, and it's not, there was no happy ending for them in sight where they both would end up together. Like it's just how fucked up the times of before, pretty much the gay movement in the 60s was.
Right.
So, but what shocked me the most was really just how incredible of a filmmaker Skiyama is, and her attention to details, the blocking, just simple things as how they glance at each other, or the position of the faces, and kind of creating this proximity of how close they are to each other. And things like that are really what make the movie flow well. But like, of course, I'm not here to really review this movie because I've reviewed it on my Letterboxd. I've discussed this movie so many times. But there was something that I wanted to get in first, and I think it's the biggest thing that when you are bringing this film up for discussion, at least discussion like these, you have to talk about the way that Skiyama subverts the male gaze in this movie. So, for those of you who aren't aware, the male gaze is literally the objectifying gaze upon the women in film. I don't want to go ahead and throw out some names out here, but I recently watched a film where you could tell.
Sorry, I was grabbing my water.
Oh, you're good. You're good. You could tell 1000% that a man was behind that camera. And that's not a bad thing, because guess what? I directed an LGBTQ plus drama this year in 2020. And but I went about, consulting and getting an intimacy coordinator. And yes, I read that the two actresses who were portraying the characters on the films actually choreographed the scene themselves. And yet it still feels like the male gaze is interpreted. So I'm not saying here that the male gaze is only limited to men. It could sometimes be enacted by women in these films too, because that is the only gaze that is understood by them in regards to these type of films. In Skiyama's filmography, she always subverts the male gaze. I mean, and if you look at it in the whole sense of the story, the men have absolutely no play in this film. Like, you rarely see a man in this film until the party, of course, the feast, and then the ending when her husband comes to the island to pick her up. That is the only time you see. The only time the men have a play in this film is when you're talking about Heloise having to be married, and that's it. That's all you see from the men. So we are truly viewing the film through the eyes of a woman. And the viewer that is interacting with these characters is through the eyes of a woman. So, what did you think about that on your watch, Alex? About the way that Skiyama kind of interprets the female gaze in here?
Yeah, the first, actually, well, it's not the opening scene, but it's a scene where Marianne is on the boat going to the island, and she's got, I don't know how many guys are in the boat, like 4 guys in the boat,
Yeah.
or something like that, and her paintings fall overboard into the water, and they all just kind of turn around and look at her like, oh shit, are you gonna do something about that? Like, and then she just jumps in the water, swims, gets this big old wooden crate of her canvases, and then I'm assuming pulls it back on the boat, and she ends up on shore with another guy carrying her stuff, who just drops it off in the sand and was like, oh, there you go, just go up this mountain hill through the trees, and there's the the place. So I thought that was hilarious, because it kind of showed that regardless of what they thought like chivalry or all that stuff was back then, it was not displayed at all in those moments when she was in like this distress of like, you're gonna make me jump in the ocean with no help and get this big old crate of canvases onto this little dinky boat. I thought that was hilarious, and kind of taking like not a dig, but just sort of like, this is where this film's gonna end as far as the men go in it. They have no other anything else to attribute to the rest of the story other than that moment. Yeah. And the ending where that wasn't her husband, right? At the end,
I want to say that was.
Was it? Because I thought it was the guy who originally dropped her off on the boat.
Are you? No, that was because the person who was leaving was oh wait, no, that was Marianne who was leaving. So I think that might have been the guy who originally was going to originally dropped off Marianne.
Yeah.
I thought that was the husband, but I'm guessing it was not. So,
yeah. Because well, the whole thing with the painting that made me laugh too was they literally were going to send her off to somebody she's never met because he approved of a painting, and he was like, oh, she's good enough. Yeah, bring her to me and we'll get married. That's basically what the whole thing was. And so, I don't even think she met him until they left. I don't even know after and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But and she gets into, like I said, how she shows intimacy without physicality. She shows it through how passionate and serious Marianne is as an artist, as she takes her job really seriously, and she's really good at it. And she shows that by having Marianne narrate as she's staring at basically Eloise trying to,
Mhm.
picture her in her mind so she can go draw her later on because she
Yeah.
can't actually tell her that she's there
Yeah.
to paint her.
And that
And
gaze isn't, that gaze is not objectification. It's more so appreciation and an analytical, look at who she is painting. It's
right.
not she's not undressing her with her eyes.
She's not looking to
The
gain something out of it.
No, it's not looking to gain something. Of course, she is Heloise is the object of desire because she is who she wants to be with, but it's not through the eyes of objectification. It's through this, truly passionate and romantic look into who she wants.
Right.
Yeah. So there's also just, of course, that intimacy. I mean, you just can't not. I mean, it's whole part of the gaze that comes with this film. You know, I I don't want to, bring this movie up again, but this other movie again. But I kind of have to because I mean I've already watched it in proximity to this, and also everybody has been saying that this is Portrait of a Lady on Fire Light,
Right.
and it's like
The American version.
I think that's a dishonor to Portrait because it's everything that Portrait is not. You know, in here the intimacy is so beautiful. Like the most erotic thing you'll see in this movie is literally Noemi, not what's it called? Noemi Merlan's character kissing Adele Hanel's character and giving her water that she drank. That
Right.
is the most erotic thing you will see in this film.
Yeah.
That is it. You do see nudity, but it's not framed. It's not graded to look very you know objectifying. And it all and like I've said it really comes down to the way you frame. You know, if you want to frame like what's it called? If you want, let's go ahead and bring up a filmmaker we love. But yes, that his look is 1000%
Yeah.
through the eyes of a man. If you can frame like Gaspar, you're getting the whole body in there to really showcase it. But here, you've got from the
Waistline.
waistline up. You're
Yeah.
not you're not showing, the vagina for no reason. You're
Right.
not showing, you only see Heloise's breasts. You're not seeing what's it called, Marianne's breasts. And even then, there is one part in the film where, yeah, you could see her breasts, but like you can't even see the areola, you can't even see the nipple. It's like you see the outline of it, but you're just literally just what's it called? It's just the body being framed as it's just there. It's not there for any pleasure-seeking purposes. It's because it's there.
Yeah. There's no money shot.
Exactly. There is no money shot. You see, the pleasure comes from the glances that they give each other. And it's one of the best examples to me is when when Marianne is telling her how like, oh, you do this when you're nervous, you do this when you're excited, you do this when you what's it called, when you're starting to lose control. And then what's it called, Heloise calls her over and she's like, you do this when you do that, you do this when you do that. And they're just looking at each other. And
Yeah.
that glance right there, it's like, I want to kiss you.
Yeah.
I really want to kiss you, but I can't. It's not this whole I'm undressing you with my eyes, as it usually feels like in these films when they're directed by, non-queer people. It's like, I really, really want to kiss you right now.
Yeah. That's one of the best scenes, I think, in the movie
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
when she tells her, when Marianne, the painter, tells her, I wouldn't want to be in your position, meaning I wouldn't want to be the one posing because I'm just constantly being stared at and I don't want to be in that position.
Yeah.
And then that's when Eloise turns around and flips it and says, but you are. If you're staring at me, then who am I staring at? Like, which is true because, I mean, what, they sit there for hours on end.
And I think that also has a deeper, what's it called, a discussion where as women, you are always the object of desire, and at this time where being an out lesbian is a very, 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 what's it called, a risky move. Like you're under the possible criticism and possible, what's called being harmed.
Yeah.
Women in general are seen as the object of desire. So you're like, just because I'm not posing for you doesn't mean I don't get viewed with the eyes of wanting to be objectified and wanting to be, fucked.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it also, I know what Celine and Adele and Naomi mentioned a lot in their interviews when speaking about it was collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And that was showing that the artist and the subject can actually collaborate and that it's meaningful and that it's what makes it work.
Yeah. And that there's a lot, because art has a lot to play in this film. I mean, and it's not just the paintings that she's creating, but the music. That moment that Heloise tells Marianne is like, hey, I've never heard anything that wasn't choir music from church.
Right. Yeah.
Because she was in a coven. And then she plays Four Seasons for her on the on the piano, and you look at Heloise's face like it's foreign to her. It's something that she is experiencing for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, like this is beautiful. And it is because of this person who views me as a person, but is a subject to me, is a subject to her, is also
Right.
showcasing me these beautiful things that I have been, isolated from.
Yeah. It's treating her like an equal, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just I think that's probably one of the most beautiful parts about this film, is that from the beginning, it's like you are just like me, like you're nothing different from me, and that's why I think that it's easier for her to fall in love with Marianne, because Marianne truly sees her as a person. She's just not a body to marry. She's not just a subject. She's a person with feelings, with ideas, and with experiences that she wants.
Yeah. And that shows too, not only with Marianne and Eloise, but the I don't know, did they call her a maid, Sophie? The character Sophie, how they're all like friends with her and stuff, and they help her through what is probably one of the most difficult times, I would imagine, for anybody.
Yeah.
As she gets an abortion and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're there with her the whole time, and I think you can definitely tell that that meant the world to her, especially at the end when she hugs Marianne, and Marianne's kind of like taken aback, like, oh shoot, I didn't expect this. I just expected to be like, okay, goodbye,
No, 1000%. And we'll talk more about the abortion subplot when we come back from break. So we're going to go ahead and get into a break here, but when we come back, we'll continue our discussion on Celine Sciamma's 2019 film, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Hey, I'm Raul Alejandro Mendoza, and this is
Jabril Newton.
And we are the hosts of High Flyer Radio. And finally, pro wrestling has come back to the Nerdcore podcast feed in the form of a show hosted by Jabril and I. And we talk about everything and anything in the pro wrestling world on Mondays at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Nothing's off limits. Whatever you guys want to talk about, if it's from AEW to SmackDown to Raw to NXT, nothing's off the table. We can talk about it.
We're going to talk all about it. And if you can get it a day early, you should go to the www.patreon.com/thenerdcore and pledge to the tiers on there so you can get this show and a lot of shows days early before anybody else gets to hear it. But enough talking about it. We'll go ahead and see you there at the Squared Circle. Oh, yeah. Don't tap out. Tune in.
Hello, guys and gals, and you're listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore. I am your host, Daniela Nunez, and along with my amazing co-host, Ashley Garcia, we discuss many things like social impact, pop culture, political realms, and any controversy surrounding the Nerdverse. Tune in and listen to us bi-weekly on the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we will love to chat and hear your thoughts on our wonderful show. And thank you again for listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore.
Hey everyone, my name is Raul, the Nerdy Chicano, and I am the host of The Impaired Files. The Impaired Files is an interview show brought to you every Thursday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. and I interview people such as filmmakers, content creators on YouTube, and podcasters like Colton Geschwander. And if you want to listen to that early, a whole week early, all you got to do is go to the Patreon and pledge to the $1 tier. And if you want to listen to it with the general public, then go to the Nerdcore podcast feed on anchor.fm/the Nerdcore. And the case is closed, but it's not classified. See you guys there.
Hey, it's Ashley from the Gamer Core. You may remember me from such episodes as Big Screen Mess, Mo Money Mo Platforms, and Brad Can Read. Tune in weekly as I blab with my co-hosts Raul the Nerdy Chicano and Brad the Random Germ about the latest news in gaming and gush over what we're playing at the moment. Oh yeah, and we got the deals too. Keep up with the latest deals in gaming and what's happening as I mediate Brad and Raul fighting like a married couple. Will Death Stranding ever come out? Will Cyberpunk 2077 live up to the hype? Is a next-gen worth a $500 console price tag? And has there ever been a movie adaptation of a video game that's been done right? It's all on the Gamer Core podcast, everywhere where podcasts are.
Hey guys, this is Brad, aka Young Yoda. Raul said I had to make an ad, so that's what I'm doing. It's supposed to be for Unstructured, but as you guys know, you can freaking catch me everywhere when it comes to this podcast feed. You can find me on the Nerd Cores, on Gamer Cores, on Nerdy Chicanos sometimes when I get lost. But for this particular one, I want you guys to go check out Unstructured. The Raul gave me free reign to do whatever I want to do. I don't know what he was thinking. So go hear me talk about LeBron James and Taco Tuesday, vaping, so many other freaking weird topics that chimichangas, that's a good one. Shout out to Deadpool. And yeah, I guess this is the end of the ad. So if you guys want to find me, you can find me all over the place on this podcast feed. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. I love you all. And nerd up.
Hey everyone, I'm Raul.
And I'm Brad.
And we're the hosts of the Nerdcore podcast. The podcast that talks that nerd. Not on this ad, right? And we come to you every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday. On the Mondays, we talk the news. That's the box office, the news of the week, and your trailer talk if there is any. And on Tuesday, we have our theme review. And on Saturday, you have a Saturday morning review, usually movies that have come out in the week or anything we want to talk about. Right, Brett?
Exactly. Whatever we want to talk about, this is our show. If you don't like it, then you don't have to listen.
We're the flagship show of the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we can be found everywhere you can listen to podcasts like Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. So if you want to talk that nerd stuff with us every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday, make sure you tune in. And Brad?
Young Yoda out.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Cinema Condition. And we are back as we discuss Celine Sciamma's Portrait of a Lady on Fire. As always, you can find a lot of those shows that were in that ad on the Nerdcore podcast feed at anchor.fm/the Nerdcore. I have no updates right now as to when the season will be premiering on that feed. Because, well, of course, it's hard to tell right now since I am literally recording in advance. But I will have an update for you all when they are available on that feed if you want to listen on that one. But as always, those shows will be available. Those episodes will be available like they used to be available. Sundays at 8 a.m. on the feed. But first, it needs to be available on the main Cinema Condition feed. But if you want to go listen to the rest of those shows, and a lot of those aren't active at the moment because of a pandemic, but there's a lot of cool shows that are on there that you should listen to at anchor.fm/the Nerdcore. And all right, we're back. I went to go grab some water, and yeah, we're gonna keep talking about this. And of course, you brought up the abortion subplot.
Yeah.
That was always so. There is always something really interesting about that. And I'm jumping ahead too much with the discussion of it when I bring this up, but Heloise asked Marianne if she has done this before, and of course Marianne says yes. The first thing after that she asks is, "So you've experienced love before?" And you're like, so and it's understandable that she asked that because she's in a coven. She is going to equate sex with love. She's going to equate that. She's also going to equate the idea of having children, being able to bear children with love, because because in those times it was believed that it should only happen with the person that you are going to marry, and yada yada yada, right?
Right.
But also, it's very interesting that we were talking about the gaze, right? But there's also a gaze enacted in here from Heloise as the observer of wanting to learn about what is happening with this woman's body when the actual abortion is taking place. And Marianne is the one that turns around and doesn't want to look, but Heloise is looking, and she even tells Marianne
To look. Yeah.
because, I mean, it's support for your friend who is probably going through one of the most traumatic, the events of her life, but it's also being the observer of another subject. This, in layman's terms, this woman, Sophie, is a subject to a operation. So for Marianne to not look at it is to not view the world that she's supposed to portray in her paintings.
Right.
So, and then she goes on later to make the painting reenacting the event.
Yeah.
That always struck me as so interesting. And it was a detail that I missed on that first viewing, that when I rewatched it today, I was like, oh, I feel like I know what Skiyama's going for here, and it's freaking genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when Marianne turns away, you can obviously tell that she's affected. She knows what's going to happen next.
Mhm.
She's been there before, so she knows. But Eloise she doesn't know. She's curious. She's like, she's the very isolated character, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she tells Marianne to turn around, you see Marianne kind of give her a look, like, and then she'll slowly turn around and watch the procedure happen. And then she's also shocked when Eloise suggests later on that night to do, like you said, the painting that they all ended up collaborating on together.
Mm-hmm.
Even Sophie was
Okay
down
with
for it. Yeah, she was okay with it. She was like, okay.
I mean, once again, it is the relationship between the subject and the painter, the subject and the artist, and with that, she is capturing moments, as she says before, and it's also the story that she seems to be reading throughout to her. It's like, you make the choice of staying or leaving. One is the human choice and one is the poet's choice.
Right.
And, with that moment, it seems that it's the artistic choice to document this experience that Eloise might forget about, but she will always have that memory of doing this with her. Right. And being there, not just for her friend, but also being experience something that she would have never known about until this time where she is until this time that she is with Marianne and Sophie.
Right. Yeah. And, leaving it a memory and not the overall reality of anything. It's just, documented and it's there.
Yeah.
And
she doesn't want to remember it. She doesn't want to remember it as an experience that was a terrible experience. She wants to remember it as like a time where she was next to the person she loved as she watched a friend have to go through the most traumatic moment of her life.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were all there for each other. So I think that's again what she wanted to remember as well.
Yeah. And once again, it's just this idea of sisterhood. It's being there for one another, because let's go ahead and be real. After the mother leaves, they are the only three people in that house.
Yeah.
And once again, this is the genius of Skiyama. We never ever see the full scale home. We never see the actual home and how it looks.
A castle.
It's probably a castle, right? It's probably mostly a castle. Also, I'm pretty sure that the budget did not call for a big, home to be constructed.
Right.
They probably had to work with what they had. But once again, that really shows the close proximity and how those three people were able to get to know each other. and really be there for each other, even though they were probably living in a huge space.
Right. Yeah, because you only get 2 rooms shown
Mhm.
throughout the whole movie, which is the kitchen and Marianne's room.
Marianne's room, and then of course, you know, the staircase when she's coming down and
Right.
stuff.
The staircase. Yeah.
But more than likely, like, those are probably just 2 different set pieces.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be completely honest, they're probably 2 different set pieces, but I could be wrong, and they could be 3. But yeah, I mean, it's built that way to me, to really show how close everything is in proximity and really establish the relationship. You know, when they all sleep in the same room, it's like, hey, we're here for each other. You know, you just went through probably one of the most extreme, things you'll ever go through. You can sleep with me. You can
Right.
stay here. You know, I'm fine with sleeping on that, you know, possibly on the floor again, but we're here. We're going through this together because we are the only 3 people that will have each other's backs.
Right.
Yeah.
And she was, and Sophie even said in the scene, she's waiting for the mother to leave
Yeah.
before she goes and does anything. And then
Yeah.
that just says it all.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about in the beginning, you know, when it comes to queer in cinema, but, you know, this, like I said, this is a very different woman love women film. I mean, it truly is. I mean, in it's what it embodies really just the feeling of it being so genuine because it comes from a queer woman. It's so different from everything that you'll probably watch, which is why, of course, I had no problem with the ending, right? You know, it ended on tragedy, as usually most of these things kind of end.
Yeah.
But, you know, like we said, it's a reality of what that time was. And
Yeah,
I-
and also I don't even know if there's any documented out queer women from that time. So they really kind of spitballing what the outcomes would have been. They're just assuming, which is accurate. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure it's very accurate.
Most of the ideas of being out, or most of the confessions of being into women, were probably expressed in the art created at the time.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, because I mean, like, to me, the first person that comes to my head, Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz from Spain in like the 16th century, when she would write about women. And yeah, I mean, that was like one of the first ones that popped in my head, but she was never out. She
Right.
was, what's it called? It was just kind of conveyed through her writing. And I mean, and also we get a feel of the period in this movie, because it's not just because of the costume design, you know, it's also because of what she is saying. Heloise asks Marianne, do you ever, paint people nude? And she
Right,
goes,
yeah.
yes. And the first thing that she says is, yes, women.
Yeah, only women. She's
Only
only
women.
allowed to do women, paint
Yeah.
women.
You're only allowed to paint women. You know, you can't paint men, but she still paints them, but in secret.
In secret, yeah.
Yeah. So once again, we're establishing the period that we are in, you know, and that's where kind of the idea of it being forbidden love also kind of plays into it. You know, you're playing into a period where, you know, obviously these 2 women are not going to be able to be with each other, you know, compared to, well, then again, that was, The Handmaiden is like the 40s really. So, you know, I was going to say compared to the 40s where they could, like, you know, sneak off with each other and then they can still be together. But in here, you have a very, very, very conservative, society where that was not going to be allowed. And there is no way in hell that Eloise and Marianne were ever going to end up together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking back because I watched it recently again, watching the scene where they argue about Marianne wanting to destroy the second painting as well, just to keep her there. And then Eloise kind of flips. Like she's very like in a place of love and I'm loving this moment. And then when she hears that, saying, once I finish, I'm handing you off to somebody else. Once Eloise hears that it flipped. She immediately got upset and said, you know, you now possess me, like I'm a possession. And she
Yeah,
got
well,
very hurt by that.
once again, I'm just an object.
Right.
I'm not a person. And it's like, first of all, I mean, if you look at it surface level, right? You are getting your girl mad the day before she leaves. Like come on. I mean, that's
no
one,
good.
fellas, women, anybody in here, non-binary folk, whatever
Mm-hmm.
you are, if you do not get your partner mad the day before they are to leave, okay? Do not do that. That is not what is done. So that's on the surface. That's the first thing I say. But once again, you look at it, it's once again, you are reinforcing me as an object. You are no longer enacting this gaze of appreciation and loving me as a person. You are enacting this gaze of viewing me as just the object of desire.
Yeah.
I am just another reason for you to need to stay here to be with me. You know, I can, and she says, what would you want me to do? Resist? And she says, yes, I can't. I am not at the position to resist like that.
Yeah. And then she asks her, what do you want me to resist? She says, yes. And then she asks her again, are you asking me to? And then Marianne says, no, I'm not asking you to. Because she knows she can't. Because she can't just be like, no, don't get married. And then her be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll stay here with you. That's
Okay,
not gonna
cool.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all off the plan.
Yeah, we go ahead and go onto the beach. What's it called? The sun starts to set, and we sing "Kumbaya," and we're together forever. It's just not how life works. So it's not how life works at that time. And instead, you know, and first of all, up until this point, you know, I've already seen the beauty of this film and everything on that first viewing. And when I first saw that, I'm like, please don't do this. I mean, please don't reinforce the whole, oh, as a couple, we need to fight and we need to get mad on the last day and we ruins it and we leave off on a bad note. Don't do that. But what does Skiyama do different? Marianne runs down those stairs. She runs to the shore and she embraces her and she asks for forgiveness.
Right.
And she communicates and she talks to her and she embraces her and tells her that she is leaving tomorrow and she does not want to spend this last moment
upset or sad. Yeah.
Now, I want to go ahead and before we kind of, you know, get into the ending, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of finish up here. I want to go ahead and give you something. So obviously, before I leave, what's it called? You're a consultant on it. If I could say, a lot of this film has a lot of little things that before I leave, has a lot of things that I use to reference to various people in my life. And of course, I had to reference to you. I shot a scene that will not be used in the film because I would get in serious trouble.
Okay.
With copyright. In Before I Leave, there's a scene where our two protagonists go to a movie theater and watch a movie. I had Portrait of a Lady on Fire screening on there.
Nice.
I will send you the file showcasing it, how it looked, but that is not what's going to end up on the final copy.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Copyright exists, and something clicked in my head to to not do that on set. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm not doing this because that's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna magically DM Neon on Twitter and Neon's gonna say, hey dude, you're good. Yeah. No, that's not how life works. And that's not how it works here in the film industry either. Money has to be placed on a table for stuff like that. But I did that, and I put specifically one of the greatest shots in this film when they are first on that beach, and they're turning to look at each other.
Yeah,
she's turning to look at her. She's turning to look at her. It's the persona shot from Ingmar Bergman's Persona.
Yeah,
but then she turns and she's looking at her. And I was like, here it is. This is the reference for Alex because this is her favorite movie of all time. I was like, I wanted to do this, but guess what? It's just not going to happen, baby. Because what's it called? Copyright, you know.
The thought is enough for me.
So the man who is to bring back Marianne to Paris comes back. And, you know, before that, you know, Heloise and Marianne spend a beautiful, beautiful day in bed. Heloise asks for a portrait of herself to draw of a picture of her to draw on herself, and she draws a self portrait of herself on page 28 of the book that she gave that Marianne gave Heloise. And she, as they are in bed naked, she draws that, and the next day she she's overflowed with emotion. She says goodbye to Heloise as her mother. Here, first of all, Eloise wants to stay for a minute to say goodbye to Marianne. Her mother says no.
Right.
Let's go. She has something to show her. And as Marianne says goodbye, look, I think this is probably one of the most painful moments to me. The ending, of course, is the most painful, but this is one of the most painful to me. You look at Marianne; she can't even hug her for as long as she wants. She can't embrace her. She can't kiss her because her mother's in front of her. The mother's right in front of her. She will suspect something. She will possibly tear up that portrait, not give money to Marianne, and probably demolish her career.
Right.
She can't. And so she goes for a simple 2-second hug and she leaves. And she goes down those stairs.
She realizes that she can't just go up to Eloise and hug her. So what she does is she hugs the mother first.
Mm-hmm.
And then hugs Eloise just to say, I'm hugging everybody in the room.
Yeah. I'm not just going to alienate them. To not raise suspicion.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was great too. I was like, see, attention to detail. That's what Celine does. The littlest things.
Yeah. Yeah. She goes down the stairs, and before she exits that door, Eloise calls out to her in that beautiful white dress that Marianne had a vision of before in the film.
Haunting her.
Yeah. She finally bids her farewell to her, and she leaves, and then we get probably one of my favorite endings to a movie ever. Of course, she's back she's back in the 18th century. She's working with her students, and she talks about the art piece, right? And then she goes off to an opera, well, not an opera, to an orchestra show.
Yeah.
But they're showing different showcases of art. But she says something else during that thing that really points out to me that's not the whole painting of the portrait of Eloise with her child, right, showing page 28 of the book. She says something that that really made my hair stand up when I was in the theater. She goes, "I saw her one last time," and I was like, oh. Once again, the absolutely genius of Celine Sciamma's script. It's not even just this like subtle dialogue, right? It's just like the way that the dialogue is created and the way that a lot of these actions kind of flow so well. But instead of her saying like, and there she was in the crowd, she just says something really simple.
Right.
I saw her one last time.
Yeah. And she didn't see me. Which was heartbreaking.
Once again, she was the subject.
Right.
But this time, the subject and the artist could not, interact.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as Eloise sits down and listens to Four Seasons being played beautifully, tears run down her face as she is remembering her time spent with Marianne.
Yeah.
And it concludes the film. And
that was one scene.
One scene.
Yeah.
One scene, which, first of all, I'm pretty sure is shot on a telephoto lens. It zooms into her. The music is blasting. It's keeping the focus on her and just all these emotions going through Heloise. And we're just there taking every single moment of that pain finally being released. It's a sort of catharsis from Eloise that we are experiencing. It's like, this just triggered something in me to remember one of the last moments of my life where I was truly happy.
Right. Yeah. And you see her at the very end give a smile.
Yeah. I mean, and first of all, Adele Haenel performance is incredible. I mean,
she's amazing.
She's incredible. That moment right there was worthy to me for Best Actress.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw her go through 3 different sets of emotions.
Yeah.
Right in there. There was contemplation, sadness and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you could throw it in there, reflection. in the middle.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it concludes it, and we fade to black, and we end our film. And yeah, I think we had probably we just had a great discussion, didn't we?
Oh yeah. About a
Yeah.
great film.
Had a great film.
Standard.
If you guys are in the States, the film is available to watch on Hulu. If you want to be on the level of fandom that Alex and I are in,
Oh yeah.
you can go buy the Criterion collections of what's it called, a Blu-ray version of this, which looks stunning, absolutely stunning. Which comes with a really beautiful booklet too, with a essay that I need to read one of these days on there. But you can go and pick that up on Criterion.com. I'm not sponsored by Criterion. I am just their mistress. That is all I am to them. But yeah, Alex, thank you for stopping by, dude. Thank you for sticking with me to discuss this great movie. But
thank you for having me.
Yeah,
and
dude.
thank you for nobody picking this movie yet until I jumped on it.
Yep.
So I appreciate that.
Watched this movie. You literally watched it, and then you said, "Hey, I want to do Portrait of a Lady on Fire for season 2." I was like,
Pretty
"Okay,
much.
all right," because I did the whole idea of claiming films for next season after Alex's episode, so I had not asked her yet to claim a movie for season 2. So I was like, "Hey, what's it called? I need you to claim one because we haven't done yours, or we didn't get yours." It's like, "Okay, I'm gonna do Portrait of a Lady on Fire," and I was like, "Okay." Literally minutes after, Leah was like, "Can I also add Portrait of a Lady on Fire to my season 2 picks?" And I'm like, "Sorry, somebody literally just took it."
Damn. Sorry,
Weird.
Leah. Sorry.
Sorry, Leah. Sorry. But with that being said, you don't get to leave yet. Alex is the first person on season 2, so guess what? She gets to be placed on the hot seat. Who are you going to piss off for the next 30 some episodes that are following?
I cannot wait to announce my next movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Alex, of course, you will be returning for Cinema Condition season 3 in 2022. Hopefully, we'll see how long this season will take us. But what will be your pick for Cinema Condition season 3?
Drive.
All right, Nicholas Vending Refn's Drive, 2011. You heard it here first. I know somebody who will definitely be pissed off. But as always, Alex, where can they find you, dude? Where can they find you on the wonderful internet?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Zanzone. On Twitter, there's an underscore in between Zan and Zone. So, and that's about it. That's all I'm on.
All right. And as always, you can find me at the Nerdy Chicano on both Instagram and Twitter. Go ahead and check out my film and photographic work by going to raulemendoza.com. I post a lot of my photography on Twitter now because obviously Instagram is going to be in placing some rules that I think are complete horseshit. But it's let's just say that you guys should definitely go onto Twitter now if you're photographers.
Yeah.
But go and check me out on raulemendoza.com. You can check me out. I also stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/thenerdcore, but twitch.tv/nerdcore, but also twitch.tv/thenerdchicano. I also host a lot of shows on the Nerdcore Podcast Network, which you can listen at anchor.fm/thenerdcore and CORPS. And with that being said, I will see you all next week when we invite a new guest, Aaron Brooks, as we look at the 1995 film from director Wong Kar-wai, Fallen Angels. And we will see you all on the next one.
Bye-bye.